Hey everyone, we are back for another exciting week of rehearsals. This week we are having our season 2 finale part 2, and we're also going to find out what made Christine say.
Maybe blame all the elementary kids that ask me insane questions all day or something like that.
And why Jack said.
Much like a bass drum, it's also a visual.
Yeah, exactly. All this and more, so get out on the field and we will see you back on the sidelines for this week's episode of On a Water Break.
8 off the mat and go.
Welcome to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts.
Everyone, bring it in. It's time for a water break.
All right, welcome everyone to the final episode of Season 2 of On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. I'm Steve McCarrick, and I can't believe it's been 52 episodes this season. I remember it just felt like we started Season 2 with Eric Carr about a year ago, almost 52 weeks ago. And here we are, not counting all of our bonus content, we've made it a whole year to Season 3. So, you may have already listened to our part 1 of our Season 2 finale, where we played some trivia. We listened to some clips from the podcast throughout the season. But to continue on here, we're adding in our producer, Christine. And we've got almost everyone from part 1 here to join us. So this week here, we've got Trish, we've got Ricardo, Jack, and then we've got Christine here with us as well. Christine, thanks for popping on for this second half of our Season 2 finale.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, how you been? How's your 2024 been going?
Well, 2024 is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of rinse, repeat. Guard closet just kind of rinses, repeats, and we continue on with the same kind of stuff with that. My teaching job is kind of rinse, repeat, although I'm enjoying a little bit calmer and quieter year than I had last year. And, worked in some travel and, got to go to the West Coast, all the way to the West Coast for the first time back in the summer. Got to check out Disneyland. Well, you heard that from Jeff a couple episodes ago talking about that. So, good stuff.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that you're here. Glad you had a good 2024 so far. And we're here wrapping up Season 2 finale. So we've got Trish, Ricardo, and Jack on the line with us as well. But we just got done recording our Season 2 finale. Something that stood out to me, it was crazy just like how long we've been doing this now and how frequently this show comes out. Like, I think Nicole did 17 episodes. I did 14 of them. Like, it's just pretty cool, this like thing we're a part of here. I love doing all these episodes. But Trish, was there anything that stood out to you from Season 2 or from the finale we just recorded that you thought was like, whoa?
I would like to mention that I won, I think, 2 out of 3 or 4 of the trivia questions.
Yeah, because you've been working hard.
I would like to, give myself a shout out there. I thought it was really awesome to have Jackie back from maternity leave. Thought that was really great.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I heard that Jackie was pregnant, and then I have not heard from Jackie since then.
Exactly.
It's how On a Water Break worked out for me. We got to split these responsibilities. It was cool to talk to her again.
Yeah, it really was. So that, and always, recapping WGI and all our good times together always makes me smile. So we do what we love what we do, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to be back on the show here for, another Season 3 coming up, and then, continuing down the road of teaching and seeing what more cool stuff we can get up to. I definitely have big plans for 2025, I would say. It starts with United, but it does not stop there. So I'm excited to tell you guys more as we get on. But
excellent.
Ricardo, is there anything that you thought stood out from 2024 or from Season 2?
Yeah, the fact that I went from being a guest on an episode to a guest host to a full-time host. So I'm going to say that 2024 was kicking it for me. I had a good time.
Yeah, we've been happy to have you on. It's been I feel like immediately everyone was in agreement. We're like, okay, so Ricardo should probably have his own show. We should have Ricardo on anytime Ricardo wants to come on.
Oh, you guys. That's so awesome.
Yeah, no, we
This
felt
is
that
fun.
for
It's
sure
fun,
right
like
away.
going from being a fan of the podcast to actually being on the podcast, and then now having
Which is
my guest room set up as the On a Water Break studio for Florida.
that's really interesting, though. It's really cool, though, like that you came in from this, and at first you were just listening to the show, and then now you get to be a part of it. When I first heard about the show, it was like Jeremy from across a dinner table at a mummers hall. He was like, "So, Steven, we need you. We need some younger percussion folks up in the mix." It was
So I got in. Nicole asked me to do like a recording. It was like a question for something for an episode that was happening. And so I recorded that. And then she goes, "Hey, do you want to be a guest on the show?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I love the show." She's like, "You listen to the show?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I listen all the time." I was like, "It's a podcast about the marching arts." Hello. Yeah, I'm a fan.
exactly.
So,
That's exactly right.
Who would have thought a year ago that I would be here on the season finale recording as one of the hosts for the season finale recording?
Well, who knows? It's a show for the marching arts buff. Maybe one of you listening will be here on the season finale next year as, someone that we love talking to week after week.
Hey guys, dreams do come true.
All you got to do
Yes,
is
they do.
just ask.
Literally ask. Hit us up at On a Water Break on Instagram or other social medias. We'd be happy to chat to anyone that's a big marching arts buff. But Jack, what about your 2024? What did you think joining the show? I think this last year too, right?
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. This past season's been really cool because I've been really focused on doing one-on-one specials. I loved talking with Rob Jett this year. That was a blast. He's always a treat.
That episode was awesome. That
loved
was
it.
really great.
It was just so much fun to just pick that guy's brain. Like freaking legend.
Absolutely.
And I really like that type of panel format where we're able to bring in those professionals who've had that experience for so long, right? And I feel like this is the best platform to really provide like really beneficial information and experienced information to new instructors. So, and I know that a bunch of instructors listen to our podcast. So, it's an excellent, really good resource. So, providing that's been awesome this year. Also had a blast bringing on some of the West Coast drum majors scene, and then the Scottish games scene to the podcast. A little bit more niche, but I think it really helps round out the show. And it's been fun bringing so many people on so that stories are heard and great experiences are shared with everyone. So it's been a blast. I hope you guys have enjoyed at least listening to some of those special episodes.
Yeah, totally, man. I think it's cool too. Like doing the show, you get to really meet a lot of different people. You can kind of set up conversations that you want to have. Like you want to pick
100%.
someone's brain, you get to just say, "Hey, why don't you come be on the show? We're going to make a cool episode, and I'm going to get to ask, whoever, whatever drum guy, everything I want to know." I definitely look forward to that with season 3. Want to get even more drum people on the line. But that kind of brings me towards my first clip here that I wanted to share from season 2 that I was super excited about. My clip was from the one about bass drumming. Kind of makes sense for me, obviously. But we had an episode, I was able to bring on like the tech from RCC in Broken City, a really close friend of mine who's the tech from George Mason, and then myself teaching United. And we just like did a whole episode about bass drum. And the like impetus of the episode was this cool bass drum clinic that happened out in Southern California. So it was cool. Let's go through this clip real quick and then we can talk a little more about it. And I want to wrap this, send it to a commercial in just a sec, but I was thinking of something a minute ago that I think is so cool. Gaggle of bass drummers that you put together. Largest gathering of bass drummers probably in history. I don't think that there ever would have been a moment where there would be more bass drummers occupying the same space, especially in a higher concentration. So pretty cool. Woody made me think that way when he said that bass drummers are always so like clicky and stuck to each other. It's like, wow, this is a giant gaggle of bass drummers that you put together.
with the 65 students, 18 techs. I'm not good at math. I just play bass drum, dude.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. They had 65 students, 18 techs, like they just mentioned. Every single person in the room was a bass drummer, which, like, normally bass drumming might be one of the smallest subsections in the entire drum corps. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a section that has 5 or less people every single year. Might be like maybe tubas, but even tubas I think have more people. So I thought it was like super cool that they were able to put together an event that like was all about bass drumming for bass drummers. Such a niche concept. Like, let's make a whole entire episode about this like niche side of drumming that I love so much. So after doing the show for so long, it was really like kind of special to me to do one that was so close to home. I thought that was awesome. Definitely want to try to do a bass drum camp of my own someday on the East Coast. I think that was a huge thing that I learned from that episode. There's a lot that would go into it, but I learned so much about like the undertaking of putting together a clinic. So we'll see about that. Maybe that's something that I can talk about in 2025 upcoming. But what did you guys think?
Well, first of all, fun fact, the only instrument that I've ever marched on the field for a marching band was bass drum. I played bass drum for 3 years before I was drum major, all the while I was the color guard director and teaching the color guard. But I marched bass drum. I jumped into the episode because I was like, okay, let's go back to my percussion roots. And it was really fun to hear people like the experts talk about like this drum that is so often like, I feel like people overlook the bass drums a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But at the heart of the matter, like the bass drums are like the coolest drummers in the band.
We're just chilling in the back. No one's paying attention to us. We're just chilling back there.
And they are always a vibe. My friends have always been bass drummers because, you know, it's a vibe.
The bass drummers are definitely the best people. I can vouch for that. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
There you go.
You know, Mr. Bass One that I happen to live with. You know, I think it's cool too. I like what you said, Ricardo, as is often overlooked as a section. I would totally agree with that. And really, if you think about it, one of the hardest working sections of the battery, because they have to rely on each other so much. I've heard so many stories of, you know, so-and-so didn't know his parts and then or so-and-so got hurt. And then we had to relearn all of our parts for the show, you know, right beforehand or something like that. I mean, there's a lot going on there in a good bass section. And, you know, it's definitely an important part of the battery, and an essential part of the battery.
And also just from like an execution standpoint, when you see like the bass line like cooking, like it is a machine. It is an absolute machine. So like not only is it like an amazing sound that instrument produces, but like the visual of it is, there's so much you can do in regards to visual. And I mean, like just go watch DCI, see what they're doing, see what they're cooking up there. There's something new and interesting every year in regards to the bass drum. So yeah.
Well, a good bass line is GE, especially in WGI. It's a little harder to get it in DCI, but in WGI, good bass lines are GE all the time.
That's going on the t-shirt. A good bass line is GE.
But yeah, that'll be my bass t-shirt. One of my first t-shirts that I'll put out. I got you. Well, let's see. Maybe we got some good drum major concepts too. I know the drum major, much like the bass line, one of the smallest sections in the drum corps, probably the smallest one. 2 or 3 of you guys. Jack, what was your clip from 2024 that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, so the clip that I had from 2024 was from our Drum Major California State Championship video. So basically, I rounded up 2 of the recent Southern California champions, and then 2 of the recent Northern California champions. And so the past 4 or 5 years, it's basically been a NorCal SoCal win either way. So it's been going back and forth like mad. So the competition's great here on the West Coast for drum majoring, but it was fun to just sit down with the past 4 state champions and just shoot all the concepts that we had about, like, you know, like what does it mean to be a drum major? What was our experience like? And, you know, like our journey going through that position. And so the clip is with my my really good friend Chance. We're judges now for drum majors on the West Coast, but it talked about the first time we saw each other. So let's get it played.
And then, so the year at 2018, I'm up in Fresno. It was in this big old stadium, and it was so cool getting to like rehearse out in the parking lot, warm up.
I remember seeing you too. It was the first time the paths crossed, and I was like, "You look kind of weird." You're Louis Vuitton, and I'm like, "You're with my bass." It was like the first NorCal SoCal crossover in like 30 years, and we're just like, "What the heck are you?" Anyway,
I think that was the first year they did a state championship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, since like what, early 2000s.
Yep. It was.
Yeah, so it was great. It was great. I think we were just so fortunate that our senior year was the year that they brought back the state championship after it had broken apart in the 90s and early 2000s. Our first year was sort of the first crossover event in regards to the NorCal style drum major and the SoCal style drum major. So that bridge work, like that first step towards bridging California back together, was awesome. And even though it was like a small moment where I was like, yeah, you look really weird. I've never seen that type of drum major before. Like it's so funny to look back at it now that we have that establishment of the state championship, and every year we have that going, how things have grown and how we've taken concepts from both sides and really pushed the art form forward for drum majors. So it's a small clip, but it means a lot to me. So, it's been awesome. It's crazy. It probably sounds like a foreign language to some of you guys, though, right?
Okay, well, here goes another fun fact. I was drum major for 5 years, 2 years in high school, 3 years in college. And I had no idea that this entire facet of the world existed. And had I known this back in my drum majoring days, I would have definitely liked to have participated in this activity.
You need to come to a competition to check it out, Ricardo.
I want to come. Can I bring my mace?
You should, and you should do some on the ground coverage. Like we would love to have you.
Oh my god!
God!
Producers, both of our producers are here tonight. So, Jeremy and Christine, can we make this an expense for the podcast so that I go and judge with Jack?
Get some plane tickets.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
fly
you just heard
Ricardo
the buzzer,
to the drum
so,
major
I mean...
championships. Fly Steven to percussion championships. Okay, and then.
I just got beat to the punch there with the buzzer, so I guess you guys know what the answer is.
Well, definitely happy to have you on the show. I'm glad that we have a drum major voice. It feels like the show is rounding out in a lot of ways and
100%.
getting, like all the different sections of the ensemble more represented. So it's been awesome having you, and I look forward to all the different stuff that you'll record in 2025, Jack.
Thank you, Steve.
Christine, what about you? What was your 2024 clip?
The 2024 clip that I picked was from our good friend Ricardo right here. And what I really liked about it was that it kind of transcended, or it like what we were talking about just a couple moments ago. We were talking about how, our podcast encompasses so many aspects of the marching arts. And what I really liked about what Ricardo said, he was talking about making connections with students. And, that can happen in so many positive ways, no matter what what type of ensemble we are involved with, how competitive the ensemble is, if it's, a group that doesn't compete. It doesn't matter. Anytime there's an ensemble and anytime there's an instructor and student, there's going to be that sense of community building. There's going to be that sense of relationship building. And that really speaks to me a lot as a full-time teacher, because, that's what I'm doing. I'm teaching, elementary kids how to blow into the right end of the instrument and, play 5 notes in concert B flat. But I'm also, making connections with kids too, and hopefully, making lasting connections with them. As I'm getting older, I'm running into more of my former students at school. I teach right alongside several of my former students, some who were my middle school students years ago, and some of them were my marching band students years ago. And it's really awesome to see them now, many of them, get into education. maybe they're not necessarily music educators, and that's fine. They're still involved in making connections with people and making connections with students and building community and all kinds of things like that. I just ran into another one of my former students the other day. I didn't even recognize him. He didn't even recognize me at first. And then a couple days later, he came up to me and said, "Hey, you were my band director." And I said, "What's your name again?" And he told me. And just like, fireworks went off. Like, oh my goodness, it's so good to see you. And I hadn't seen him in maybe like 15 years. So it was really neat. So Ricardo, the clip I have of Ricardo is talking about making connections with students and the fact that, a lot of the things that we teach them, all these, wonderful shows and this choreography and this drill set and this bit of music and all that stuff, that's all wonderful. But what's really more important than that, and most important, is all those connections and memories that they're going to make. So go ahead and roll
they have
it.
this little tiny moment with you, and whatever that tiny moment is, they go, "Hey, I remember when he got a Jolly Rancher from me." Or, sometimes I take Candy out to the field and I just walk around and I sneak them to kids and "Here, eat this," Like you have to do those things to make the kids want to be there, make them remember, because that's the stuff that they're going to remember in the end. They're not going to remember, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're not going to remember where you placed. They're not going to remember any of that stuff. They're going to remember the bond that they had with the instructors. They're going to remember the bond that. See, this warms my heart because, I am in the retirement year. So everything is like the last this, the last that for me right now. And so we just finished our state championships on Saturday. We had our community night on Wednesday night before we got ready to leave. And I looked out in the audience and there were all of these former students that had been color guard members that just came back to the show just because they wanted to be there. And also parents of kids that graduated years ago. And it's really hard for me right now, stepping out of the classroom and into this new role where I'm not directly going to have, a set group of students that I'm going to follow for 4 years. But just seeing all of those people there and knowing that they came back because of that was their home, and to be able to make a home for those students. And that's the one thing that I wanted to always do for my kids is like make sure that they had a place where they felt loved and at home. And because my directors did that to me, like when I go home to Mississippi, I still talk to my college band director. I still talk to my high school chorus teacher. I still talk to my vocal coach. Like I talk to all of these people because they had such an impact on my life and they made a home for me. And I just wanted to be that person for my kids. And I strive to do that still. And hopefully in my new life, this will transition over a little bit and I can make that still happen. But it's just important how we treat kids and what we do and building our programs. You can't build a program if you don't have kids that believe in what you do. And they're not going to come back and they're not going to want to continue to work hard for you if they don't feel loved and cherished. And that's just my MO. So thanks for picking my clip, Christine. I appreciate that.
Well, of course. I mean, I'd also think too about how it impacts them, going forward. And like I said, I get to see some of my former students on a daily basis. And I get to see them teaching. I get to see one of them as a principal. And, yeah. Now, he's not one of my principals, but he's still in the district. And I get to see him be a principal. And it's really neat. And I also think, too, about how I still maintain connections with people that were my instructors or directors. And I just think when you were talking just now, Ricardo, it made me think of this past year when I was at homecoming for Penn State. And, I'm there in a block of 400 alumni. And I was kind of apprehensive about doing it this year because none of my other friends were available. They all had other things to do. And I thought, oh, do I really want to do this? Because I don't know as many of the other alumni. Won't be anybody else from the time I marched there. And I'm still so glad I did it because I made connections with other people, despite the fact that they weren't people that I marched with. And and I'm sitting there at rehearsal and, we're getting ready for some announcements and things like this. And one of our former directors is also an alumni. So he marches with us every year. And, he just walked by and I really wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden I felt like a just pat on my shoulder. And, there he was. And he was the director for many, many years and taught hundreds of students, not only as a music professor, but as the director of the marching band. But he took that time just to walk past me and just, give me a quick pat on the shoulder and say hi. And I'm telling you, that means the absolute world to me that he just took that small moment just to say hello and connect.
Go State.
Right.
You got to be somebody's person. And that's the thing that I really strive for, is the fact that, like, whatever happens, I want to know that there are kids out there in this world that, like, when they think back on their high school career and they think about the good things, they go, oh, that was my person. So, yeah, it's magic. That's the magic.
It definitely is that personal connection that I can remember being what, like, kind of draws you to the activity as well. It's like one good teacher, one good educator is what makes you from a high school band kid to like a band person. So totally cool for Ricardo to do that for so many students, but for all of us as well. I know everyone on the call does that for all of our students. So Trish, what do you have for us for 2024, your favorite clip?
So I think it was late July, early August. I guess it was late July. After we had lost Peggy Twiggs, the legendary color guard instructor, we did a tribute episode to her. And that episode meant so much to me for so many different reasons. First of all, we had Barbara Hopkins on the show, who was a former 27th Lancer. And she talked about, going on the field, being a member of the 27 Lancers and going out on the field. And she talked about so many of those experiences. And I was that little girl standing at the fence watching probably her performing, going, oh my God. So I had moments of fangirl, which were probably the better clips, but I really wanted to use this clip because it was kind of, Jackie asked us to kind of talk about, kind of our gush should go to be about Peggy and Peggy related and what did we want to say. And Peggy was one of my instructors when I was in Royal Guardsmen. She lived in Massachusetts and we practiced in Queens, New York. So it wasn't like she was a full-time regular, but she came in now and again to tag. I chose this clip because I feel like I'm so grateful for that whole period of time in my life. And I feel like the instructor and the person I am today is because of my marching experiences. And I wanted to use this clip because I'm actually thanking her for everything she did, and it can't be said enough. So I wanted to say it again on this podcast. So let's hit it. To Peggy, I want to say thank you. I think I said everything I could say to you when I ran into you guys in the Dayton airport that year. Thank you for, everything that she taught me, everything. I know it was only a really short time. I do have a really short story. So she also came back with Jerry and George and that whole crew in 1986, which was our Dindada year. Those of you who remember that show. Thank you. So there was one part of the show where I was a saber. And then in the middle of Dindada, almost all the sabers went on rifle except for myself and one other girl, Jackie. And she was like a soloist. So when there was one part in rehearsal where Denise Bonfiglio took the rifles and she was over there with them. Yeah. So the moral of that story was that she was so chill when she came over and I was spinning by myself and she's like, why are you over here by yourself? And I'm like, because I'm not in that part. And I'm not a rifle. And she was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it wasn't anything like get out there or, whatever. I was just kind of going over my work on my own. And that's how she was. And yeah, so that was why that whole episode, I actually got choked. I'm getting choked up again, but I actually got choked up in that episode a lot of times, and it's really cool. Thanks, Peggy.
That is really cool. It's something that I hope we get to do more of with On a Water Break. I think we do a good job every now and then of like making some really cool historic content where it's just like taking the time to do an episode that really covers something that like you don't think about every day. Something that's like more about the basis of drum corps and like what made the activity that we do today.
And the key players who basically added so much to our right? Like I feel like that's a gem of this podcast, is being able to document those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Peggy Twiggs episode was such a really cool episode for exactly that, like just documenting such an important like integral part of what made Color Guard what it is today. I hope we get to do a little bit more of that for the entire rest of a drum corps as we go throughout, doing more episodes in 2025 and beyond. So we're going to be back here with more What Are We Doings, Gush and Goes, and more content to wrap up season 2 right after this. But let's pop to a quick commercial break.
Hey, this is Christine Ream.
And Chris Green.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs.
Our consignment inventory has plenty of great looks for your color guard, drumline, and marching band.
Pay it forward. When you purchase consignment, you help other programs. Last year, we sold over 400 sets of consignments and returned over $125,000 in payments to our consigners for their sales.
Additionally, Guard Closet offers custom and pre-designed costumes, flags, floors, and formal wear, full or partial show writing, educational programming, and other services.
Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
The Guard Closet team is here to help you get everything you want and need for your season. Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
All right, well, it has been a blast talking about season 2, favorite moments, and other sorts of recaps from the year, but I've got a couple hot takes that I want to talk about. So, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing? Trish, I think that one of my favorite things that we added this year has got to be the What Are We Doing bit, and I love it for your intro especially.
I got a text from Jeremy when he wanted that, and he was like, I need you to record yourself saying what are we doing like 5 times. So I went in my bathroom, I closed my door, and I said it like 5 times. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And that's the one they picked.
It's perfect.
And we landed on like one of the most New York possible like renditions of What Are We Doing you could have given us. I love
Bronx,
it.
born and raised here, honey.
Steven, you just said it. I was going to say the same thing. And I love that about, Trish every time. I mean, and that's cool too, because both What Are We Doing voices are on right now. It's almost kind of reminds me of, how sometimes they like on SNL or something, they have the person that the SNL cast member is imitating. So see, you guys are with yourselves right now.
Right.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Perfect.
Right.
So, I mean, and Josh, we should get Josh on here so that he can talk about his music too. That'd be more fun.
I would just want Josh to be improvising with his keyboard and just giving us nothing but sound effects if Josh was here.
Well, that's the guy on Let's Make a Deal. The guy that stands over there with the keyboard the whole time. And I forget what his name is, but, we can have that whole thing going on.
This is a season 3 goal. We're going to get like 20 new soundboard things.
Oh, gosh.
It's like Paul Schaefer on
Zencaster
Letterman
can't even
back
handle
in the day,
it all. All right. Well, Trish, why don't you get us started? What are we doing this week?
So, what am I doing with this setup that I have here at my kitchen table with this terrible lighting, with this light like right over my head? Well, what am I doing? Season 3, I'm going to have a new little setup. So, we're redoing our bedroom. So, there's a piece of furniture in my living room right now that's going to go in the bedroom. And we're painting and doing all that kind of stuff. And my boyfriend, who's a big fan of the podcast, he's the guy with the kite.
Heyo.
Remember the kite story? He bought me a new desk and a new chair. So once we get the dresser out of here, I'll have a whole new little setup that will be like permanent. I won't be moving around with my kitchen in the background. So that's my goal for season 3. What am I doing right now sitting at my kitchen table? Well, I won't be much longer.
What are you doing? You're being the most prolific host of On a Water Break is what you're doing.
Maybe. I don't know. Thank you.
Well, that's going to be awesome. I'm excited for you to step it up even further and just keep on growing the show. We've been happy to have you on here.
Thank you.
So that's going to be cool. Let's see. I'm excited to see what you can cook up back there for season 3. But Ricardo, what are we doing this week?
What are we doing about not having our friends listen to the podcast? I'm going to call you out. My friends who don't even have any affiliation in the marching arts other than they are just my fan support group, listen to the podcast. And it is a weekly thing. After the podcast is released on Friday, I start getting all these text messages in my best friend group. Like, oh my God, what was Trish talking about this? And what did Steve was talking about this? And I didn't know this whole thing existed. And then I have to go through and explain all of this stuff. But it's really nice to like have friends that are supportive, that listen to a podcast about a world that they're not even in, when all of you who are listening have friends that are in this world, that know exactly what we're talking about. So what are we doing about not making sure that our friends are listening to On a Water Break?
Jeremy, quick to applaud that one. Guilty as charged. No, you're right. I should at this point, I really need to get more people listening to it, man. Because even when I was listening back, something I thought was cool was when I was listening back to figure out what clip I was going to present to the show. Because, like, honestly, a lot of the time I record the show, I don't necessarily always do a good job of listening to it back after the call.
Oh, listen, I do not listen to myself. I listened to the first episode that I did, and I was like, this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I 100%, full disclosure, listeners, I don't listen to the episodes that I'm on just because
you're here.
I lived through them. And I don't want to hear my voice, but I do go back and listen to all of the episodes that I'm not on to hear what my friends are talking about, mostly so that I don't seem stupid when I get on the podcast the next week. But just because it's great conversation. I mean, like I said, my friends that don't do this, like they have genuinely become listeners of the podcast, including my husband. My husband listens to the podcast. I called him the other day, and he drives around a lot for work. And I was like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I was listening to the one of the episodes of your podcast. I was like, oh, which one? He was like, oh, you're not on it. Don't worry about it. It's like, oh, okay.
That's devotion.
That's fine.
But hey, that's good. You know, we're getting the word out to the quote civilians as well, right? You know,
that's right.
That's true.
Those who are not marching arts people, maybe they're going to learn some more about what, you know, all of us, you know, strange marching arts people do, and, you know, get a little bit more, maybe broader horizons about what it's all about, so they understand what all of us crazy people are doing all the time, and, you know, driving all over the place and going to hours upon hours of rehearsal and all these sorts of things. So
you get it. Listen, band directors, color guard instructors, when you have to answer all of those crazy questions about all of the things, just tell your parents to listen to the show. They'll get insightful information and they'll be up in the know. And then you can have meaningful conversations with them while you're sitting around on a water break.
Cha-ching. Got the branding in there.
I got the branding in there. I did it.
And you got the sound effect too. It's perfect.
Yes.
Well, I'll put it right out there. You're exactly right, Ricardo. In season 3, I could do a better job of getting even more of my people to listen. We do something cool. It'd be fun to get even more folks in the fold and seeing what we're up to here at On a Water Break. So I'll take that as my personal to do. But for now, in the meantime, Jack, what was your what are we doing for this week? What are you kind of thinking about?
What are we doing about getting young instructors onto the podcast for next season? I think I would love to have a podcast to just have a roundtable with young instructors. And, let's even take it a step further. Let's bring some seasoned veterans in to just have that crossfire conversation on the podcast. I think that would be really fun to listen to. And I think, it's a learning experience for everyone, always learning, always growing, right? So I think That would be a blast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree. I want to get more percussion people on. I still feel like we haven't gotten as much percussion as I want. And now, to be candid, the amount of percussion that I would want is nearly 100%. Not quite. The show's opened my mind. I'll take 95%. But we're a little lacking up until there in this point. So maybe next year we can get a little bit more drum shows going. I'll try to get some of that cooking for us when I'm the host, at least.
Love it.
Christine, what's your what are we doing this week?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I mean, I was listening. Gosh, I was listening to you guys talk and thinking, well, yeah, I can agree with that, and I can agree with that, and I can agree with that. And then I'm just kind of stuck right now. I don't know. Maybe blame all the elementary kids that ask me insane questions all day or something like that. I'm just kind of brainwashed right now. I can't even think of anything. Were we saying something recently in our text chat, something about ridiculous questions that kids ask? No, it was Joey on a recent episode. Okay, he said something about, the kids asking these ridiculous questions. And I texted all of you guys, this is every day, all day for me, So I guess maybe it's part of that, what are we doing? And, some of the kids, even the older kids who should know, they still, what's going on? I mean, Whitney texted us a story from BOA. One of her student leaders.
Oh my God.
One of her student leaders got themselves into quite an interesting situation and injured themselves because they were trying to retrieve an electronic device. So
I still can't believe that was real.
Yeah. But, it was very validating because it's hey, here's one of the top bands, in the country at a national competition, right? And it's happening everywhere. So, hey, maybe that's my what are we doing? What are we doing? Not, using common sense sometimes and maybe thinking through.
Common sense does not exist.
Right. Yeah. Thinking through before you ask the question and stuff like that, maybe that's it.
Yeah, well, it's pretty crazy. I mean, even just talking about crazy stuff our students will get up into. My students need to stop watching the news. I don't want to hear about the Diddy parties. I don't want to hear about anything like that. Stop. I don't know what it is about being 15, but my little drumline students cannot stop being little edgelords all rehearsal long, bringing up anything that they see in the news. Do you guys deal with that?
No. No, not Diddy parties. No.
I refuse to believe that this is just my high school. My 15-year-olds make
No,
jokes
I
about
mean, but
this.
they are. But I think they're getting their news from TikTok, and it's
Yeah.
just crazy. And they think they're watching the news, which is a whole nother topic of conversation for when On a Water Break goes political. But we're not going to do that today.
Talk about a crossfire.
Great job, everyone. Set your equipment down. Gush and go.
All right. So, Trish, what do you got for us to gush and go on here in our last episode of season 2?
So I keep forgetting this every time I record, but it is a good gush and go. Every time I'm like, I should have done that one. So a few weeks back at U.S. Bands New Jersey State Championships, I'm bringing my color guard to the gate, and I had my On a Water Break backpack with me. And I'm standing there like we're getting ready to go on the field. And some guy from US Bands turns around and taps me and he goes, "Hey, how are you? I'm a big fan." And I turned around and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I listen to you on the podcast." He saw my back page. I listen to you on the podcast all the time. So we took a selfie. We did a quick little "What Are We Doing" video, but okay, 15 minutes of fame. So we're getting out there. People are listening and people are recognizing us. So
That's actually so cool.
yeah,
I love it.
it was cool.
Getting noticed from the podcast in real life is like, I've yet to breach that one. That would be a pretty crazy one.
It was cool. It was cool.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so proud of the show growing in that way, because there's not a ton of like shows out here for the marching arts. So as far as it goes, like we really we kind of build up a good little thing. If you're a big marching arts buff, you might listen to On a Water Break. At the very least, I would argue you should. But Ricardo, what do you got for us this week to gush and go on about?
Oh my goodness. So after 29 very long years of being a performer or being a high school marching band color guard director, I have just retired from the marching band realm, and I did it with the W by winning the Florida Marching Band Championships. So I did it. Yeah.
Congrats. Good job.
It's a little bittersweet. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, I did a recording from our last outdoor rehearsal, and I was down on the field with the kids. I almost got hit by a flag, and one of the kids was like, "Get out of my way," which I was like, "Yep, I trained you right to not worry about who's on the field with you, but to just do your job." But it's a little sad, and I'm going to miss having that interaction with kids every day and doing all that stuff. But it was really nice to like go out with a win, and like all of our hard work, and through 3 hurricanes this year, the tropical storm that started at the beginning of the school year had to this a little bit, and then the 2 major hurricanes that came through, we still somehow managed to get it all together, and the kids worked really hard in the end. And a lot of it was they knew it was my last one, so they wanted to make me proud, and Lord knows they did. They made me very proud. So I'm gushing about that, and I'm going and not having to be at a marching band rehearsal anymore. Which also means, shameless plug, I'm available for consultation. So, if you need someone to be an eye for you, hit me up.
Well, congratulations, Ricardo. That is very well deserved, and no better way to go out than to go out on top. So enjoy that one. Jack, what do you got for us for Gush and Goes for this week?
My gush and go for this week would have to be seeing 2 of my seniors graduate through their final competition. They both took first. So one went to the NorCal Bay Regional, then the other one went to the Valley Regional for NorCal, and they both came away with like a score of 94. So it was like an outstanding performance from them. And these 2 performers were amazing. They were the first girl drum majors that had been part of the position for the drum major position for their respective bands, and they kicked butt. They were so empowering, and it was just so awesome to see to see such strong, inspiring leadership. And that's the type of stuff that bands that bands need to see, and I'm going to be the first one to say it's totally a male dominated field. I think drum majoring, and the more women we can get in that art form, the better it's going to be, and so to see them take that step is just, it makes my heart sing. So that's what I'm gushing and going about this week.
Nice. Yeah, it's cool to see even more people get involved with drum majoring, and really I bet that drum majoring and bass drumming have a similar thing going on where it grows so much because it's really not a lot of people do this. So every year it's becoming a bigger and bigger
and boys in color guard.
We need more boys in color guard.
All across the board, growing and seeing it become a more inclusive and just big picture type of activity that everyone can do. Love to see it. Christine, what are you gushing and going on about this week?
I'm going to gush and go about a really great rehearsal that I had just earlier today. Now, I understand that I teach elementary band, and I know that those kids aren't marching anywhere. But eventually, hopefully, some of them will. And you always have to remember they got to start someplace. And if we don't sit them down and make sure that they put, their left hand on top of the keys, the clarinet and saxophone, they put their right hand on the bottom, and they play, quarter notes and eighth notes correctly, they're not going anywhere else. And I had our schedule at our school doesn't allow us to have full band rehearsals until right before the concerts. So so we have only small group lessons, and then we put them together for 2 rehearsals, and then they play a concert. And so we work a lot of magic. And but anyways, we make lemonade out of lemons every day. But what I meant to say is that I had many students today experience their very first band rehearsal ever in their lives. And
oh wow.
Yeah. And another teacher and I worked together to teach this band. He and I split the band between us, and we were just amazed because the teacher I work with, he was my student teacher several years ago. And he and I have been working together for a couple years now. And we just looked at each other and we said, oh my gosh, this is one of the best first band rehearsals we've ever had. The rehearsal etiquette was impeccable. It's we didn't even have to say anything to them about rehearsal etiquette. It's they knew exactly what to do. The younger kids watched the more experienced kids, and our more experienced kids that played last year set the example and, showed the younger kids what to do. And it was just this awesome coming together of, again, some kids who had never, ever been in a band rehearsal in their life. And, you do take a lot of things for granted when you're an experienced person when it comes to participating in ensembles, okay? All you guys know how to walk into a rehearsal and get yourself ready to go. You know how to do that, okay? These kids, they don't know how to do that. They don't know that the flutes are going to sit up front. They don't know that the drums are going to be in the back because they've never been in a band rehearsal in their lives. They don't know that the music stands go up and down. It's all kinds of things like that. So it was just wonderful today. And then the principal stopped in and to find a student that he needed to give something to. And he, complimented the kids. He goes, oh, you guys sound great. I said, wait. I said, stop. And I said right there, so the principal can hear it, all the kids can hear it. I said to the principal, you've got to know these kids, many of them are in their very first band rehearsal ever, and they are doing an absolutely amazing job. They are just jumping right in, and they're doing exactly what we need them to do. And it was one of the best first band rehearsals I have had ever in over 15 years of teaching elementary band. So it was really cool.
Yay.
Yay.
That's awesome.
I know. I still looked out and I still saw kids that, maybe were looking at the wrong line of music or, forgot where their fingers are supposed to go on the keys and all this sort of stuff. But it didn't matter because they were all trying their best and they were all focused and they were all really engaged with what we were doing and, really doing exactly what we needed them to do. So, yeah. So there it is. There's the foundation. You can't have the fun, fancy stuff without, the basics happening first.
That's so cool. It's kind of funny because, like, as music teachers, I think so many people want to teach, like, at the higher level or whatever, what you might consider, like, a more flashy thing to teach. But all the time when you ask a student, like, who their most impactful educators were, you hear about, like, some of the very first educators that they had, like, the people that did teach them that, the drums are supposed to stand in the back, like, stuff you take for granted. Someone had to actually teach it. It's really cool to hear that it's going well for you and that your students they're getting the right experience and they're learning the right stuff. So
also, thank you for your service, because I know day in and day out that those kids, they make some very interesting sounds from those instruments.
They do. And, I will tell you this to say, you mentioned that, Jack. I have unfortunately had to talk to other adults in my building about not making comments about that. And I've run into that at least maybe 3 times in my career.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Just twice this year alone. And one person in particular I did speak to then, and I said, you need to understand that this is just what we do, and this is how we learn. And please don't make comments about, what the sounds that you hear my students making, because it's not helpful.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, yeah, we make weird sounds, and those weird sounds are going to turn into really beautiful sounds. And I've had people make comments to me such as, I'm really glad I'm not a music teacher because then I don't have to listen to the kids play badly all the time.
Oh my God. See, this is where Peggy comes out, and I would say, you know what? I'm glad that I can fix these sounds, but you can't fix your face.
Yeah.
I would say it.
I even correct students if they use the word noise at all. I say, no. This is, my instrument doesn't make that noise. I said, that's right. Your instrument doesn't make that noise. I said, because instruments don't make noise, they make music. And
there you go.
I kind of sing it right there. But, I know that they have parents at home some of them have parents at home that don't want to listen to their sounds. And, it's hard. So you just got to support them every step of the way. So, Steven, you got to do your gush and go and make the rest of us stop talking.
No, I like to just sit and not talk and let you guys keep on rambling, and we'll get there when we get there. But my gush and go, I want to know, like, I guess I had more of a what are we doing? My gush and go, I'm probably very happy about United and looking towards Bush this upcoming summer. I'll be back teaching drum corps at the Bushwhackers, teaching the bass line there, which will be great.
Oh, I'm a Bush alum.
Oh, come be a Bush member. Nothing's stopping you.
I guess.
She said no.
No, I didn't. I said, yeah, I guess nothing is stopping me.
I'll be back teaching Bush. That'll be fun. I'm really excited about that. I think UP Bass is off to a great start, even better probably than last year was. So that's just really cool for me. Like, being a young educator, as we've talked about, I finally kind of have the chance to, like, establish something at, like, the world-class level and build it year over year. So this is my first chance to, like, build upon what I established last year. And I think that we're doing great. We're picking up right where we left off, but with younger kids and months ahead of time. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And I do want to wrap with a quick, what are we doing? My what are we doing was going to be, I want to know, what are we doing in between ensembles during DCI live streams this year? I feel like there are certain podcasts out there on the internet that do a good job creating content for the marching arts that could be very well utilized in that sort of space. And I just want to ask, what are we doing with that time? There's like about 5 to 10 minutes between ensembles that you're going to need some idiot to babble on for a couple minutes in between, so
I also will volunteer to tap dance.
We've got more than enough talent, and clearly we've got a lot of ideas for what we can do with those 5 to 10 minutes. So
Ricardo, we should record your tap dance and then have that as like one of the outro bits, just randomly sprinkle it in there.
Okay, well, so comically speaking, yes, I am a classically trained dancer, but I'm terrible at tap, so it would be entertainment just to watch me attempt it.
Much like a bass drum, it's also a visual.
Yeah, exactly.
That's GE, all we guys.
It's GE.
Hey, it's called Gush and Go, not Gush and Stay. Let's go.
All right. Well, thank you for a great rehearsal this week. Thank you, everyone, for a great season. Thank you to all our hosts. Thank you to our other guest clinicians throughout the season. Everyone was very amazing throughout all the episodes. Thank you for everyone on the call tonight. Jack, Trish, Christine, and Ricardo, and Jeremy as well. Couldn't do it without Jeremy. That's always been the case. So we've got some exciting new things planned when we launch season 3. It'll be happening very soon. One more thing. Don't forget, we've got our YouTube channel now where you can see all of our lovely faces, our reactions to the things we talk about as well. Go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss those visuals. They are not to be missed. You can also find a lot of old episodes, including the ones that we talked about here. So before you close out your podcast listening app, go ahead, subscribe to the show On a Water Break, write us a review, and share it with a friend. Follow us at social media at On a Water Break, and we'll see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
And go practice.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Ream. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.